If you still don't understand the difference between SPI-based ELRS receiver and serial-based ELRS receiver, then this video is made for you. I will be walking you through the main difference between SPI and serial-based receivers, the main methods to bind them with your radio, and the methods of flashing your ELRS firmware on these receivers. Let's go. Okay, so before we dig into how to bind and flash both the receivers, we have to understand the reason why I am mentioning how to flash prior of binding is due to the way ELRS works is you are required to have the same version of firmware in order for your TX and RX to bind together. It has to be either both on 2.x or 3.x for them to bind, and the firmware difference is often the number one reason why people cannot get a successful bind. Okay, so back to the topics. For a serial-based receiver, the easiest way to flash it is to use the ELRS configurator to build the desired firmware version and to flash it via Wi-Fi. I have a detailed tutorial as of how to do it, and I will leave the link as below so you can go check it out. Okay, so for a SPI-based receiver, since the ELRS receiver is built into the flight controller, you no longer will be able to flash it through Wi-Fi or the ELRS configurator. Instead, you will have to flash it through Betaflight. So far, for Betaflight version 4.3 or before generally indicates ELRS version 2.x, and for Betaflight 4.4 or above, it generally should indicate that ELRS version 3.x or above. So just make sure you select the correct version. And if you are interested to see how to flash it step by step, I have a detailed tutorial and the link is also at the description. Okay, let's go to see how we can bind both of these. For serial-based receivers, if you already flash your receiver from the prior step, you should already set up your binding phrase. But if you have not, here are the ways to do it. You are going to power up your drone and you're going to connect your receiver via Wi-Fi. And once the web page pops out, you just have to scroll down and enter the binding phrase in the binding phrase box and hit save. You can also use the same method to update your TX, aka radio. So let's switch to the SPI. For SPI receivers, since we already understand it's stuck with Betaflight, we will need to set up the binding phrase in Betaflight. You just have to do it here and hit the save and you are done. But if you don't want to use the binding phrase method, here are a few cheats that you can do. So for serial-based receiver like this one, you can plug and unplug your battery 3 times very quick. This will force the receiver to go into the binding mode. So something like this. It's kind of hard. 1. And you just have to plug it in all the way at the end. And you should see that the receiver right now is flashing steadily. It's right here actually. So this is an indication that it's going into binding mode, and you can just hit your connect on your TX and it should be done. For the SPI receiver, you can hit the little bind button on the FC to force the receiver to go into binding mode, or you can also hit the one button, the bind button on Betaflight when you plug it into Betaflight. It's basically works the same. By the way, make sure you have set up your receiver as SPI and ELRS here, or it will not bind with whatever method we just mentioned. Alright, so this wraps us up this video. If you have additional questions, please leave me a comment or send me a message. If you like my content, please subscribe and stay tuned. I will see you next time. Bye bye.